All right. We are back. This is the Good Man Show. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. And I told you guys this conversation was going to be a long one. And in fact, I think it's inexhaustible because we are talking about something that is universal and that has been since the beginning of time and will be here forever, which is love and relationships. Now, the original question, going back to the beginning, was: is it mandatory? Is it a must that two people be in love before they get married? And I think where we left off, we have once again back again with us. I'm sorry, Pastor Keith J. Allen. Pastor Keith J. Allen, welcome back.
Thanks for having me again. I'm enjoying this a lot.
It's a serious conversation, and I know we touched on a whole lot of things, but the last time we were talking, I think we wanted to go into the relationship between a man and a woman, and you kind of made sense by not approaching that from that perspective first before you established some groundwork on exactly what love is. And two things come to mind for those who didn't listen to the last ones. But the last conversation we had, we got real serious, and I want you to touch on this a little bit more on the issue of worth and what that really means to a person. Before you can love anybody, before you can give love, you must be know what your worth is. And then you gave me permission to go in this session to what I've been trying to get to, and we kept really having to go. Kept really having to go back and forth with this. Is the relationship between a man and a woman? Because the initial question is, again, is it a prerequisite for two people to be in love before they get married? So the serious issue is commitment of the commitment of marriage, and the reason that this is so serious because the divorce rate is so high. People getting married, and I personally believe that this is the bane of all of our problems in our society today. And number one being fatherlessness, and people having children outside of wedlock, and then children growing up parentless. I think this is a huge issue, and I think it even stretches over to the spiritual aspect. But getting back to the issue of relationships between a man and a woman, the whole premise for this, and why I wanted to really talk about this, why I really wanted to talk about this is because I believe that if we could foster healthier marriages and healthier relationships between men and women, and figure out what exactly is wrong with why we can't, when we come together, stay together, whether it be because we didn't do our homework prior to that, or whether it be because of some circumstances. And what you mentioned before, sometimes all is needed is the right crisis for people to abandon what they claim to be committed to. I think you pinpointed it when you talked about the issue of worth. And so you can kind of pick it up where you want to pick it up.
Well, first of all, I want to say again, thanks for having me here. And I'm really enjoying tremendously our conversations. And so, one of the things that I want to emphasize again is because I know that people have a tendency to be dull of hearing or selective hearers. And when the whole topic in and of itself, whether or not you would marry somebody, or I would marry somebody because I love them, has to be, again, the catalyst on which everything else we're getting ready to say is.
Well, real quick, should we or can we make the distinction between loving someone? Because you can love someone, that's different than being in love, as the world quote
And
Unquote.
that was where I was going with
Mm-hmm.
it, because
I'm sorry then.
the emphasis is on the five senses.
Right.
So and that's why I'm saying that we have that foundation that we're talking on definitely has to come out of not loving, but loving the right way, having the right understanding of what love is, and knowing that love emotionally should not be the forerunner for understanding what love is, or even like you just said earlier, being in love.
Right.
I take issue with the whole idea of being in love, simply because it, in my opinion, it draws me back to how I feel about you.
Mm-hmm.
And if that is the reason that I'm saying I'm in love,
Mm-hmm.
then it negates all that love is supposed to mean. And this is so the forerunner for me would be first and foremost purpose.
Okay.
I have to develop what I constitute as loving you, or being in love with you with a purpose, because ultimately it holds me accountable for all the responsibilities that go into expression or serving, or even encouraging, all the facets that love wants to manifest itself in. It will hold me accountable. So it can't be, and I guess we're going to say this forever. For me, it can't be how I feel. It has to be the purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? God loves us with a purpose. He don't just love us because of how he feels.
Mm-hmm.
And everything is birthed out of that whole construct of love. And so when you get that, then you understand that is the foundation for the relationship period. It's the fact that I'm in this and I have to focus on the purpose for loving you, or the purpose for even being with you, period. And again, that's whether it is uh, you know, male and female, or just two friends, or mother and father, the
Mm-hmm.
whole nine. And when you brought up in the intro, talking about the divorce rate, talking about the fatherlessness that is in our society, that's why. You know what I'm saying? It's because we're producing things that have no purpose. And look at your children. One of the number one reasons for the suicide rate is because there's a lost sense of purpose. There's a lost sense of reasoning. And as a parent, you don't even understand that that's what your job is to instill the reason for that child being here. And that's why I'm parenting you. I'm going to parent you into purpose.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? I'm going to parent you into a significance, a worth. Listen to that, was powerful.
Mm.
I'm going to parent you into a worth. I'm going to parent you into, and you're going to hear me use this word even more in our conversation, I'm going to parent you into value. And at the end of the day, you're going to have value or worth or significance or purpose so ingrained in your being that what challenges you will make sense to you. What comes against you, what opposes you, will make sense to you, and you will apply your value, your worth, your purpose to everything else in your life.
Mm. That's saying a lot. So the problem still is that we have so much divorce, and now we live in a culture that pretty much doesn't hold any value when it comes to sex. And most relationships that do start off usually prematurely involves sex, I guess, because of the five senses. And you get with somebody and all the excitement of being with that person and the whole line, and then people get involved, and some get married, but a lot don't. But in the meantime, children are being born.
Right. And sex is a substitute often. We use sex as a substitute for purpose, for worth. We don't want to be held accountable. We don't want to put in the work of purpose. And that statement by itself, I don't know if you could hear it or not, but just that statement by itself is loaded. We don't want to deal with the accountability of purpose, of worth. There's something that makes me or calls me into accountability and lets me know that every action I take, every move I make, every decision I make, every relationship I'm in, I hold myself first accountable because I'm aware of my own sense of worth, worthiness, and worth. I hold I'm constantly in my reasoning in touch with that, and that's not for no one else to give me. That's not for no one else to do anything for, because in principle, it's something that I'm responsible for myself. And that's the danger of getting with anyone when there's no expression of personal worth, personal value, personal purpose. And it's dangerous when somebody make you their purpose, make you their worth, make you their all. That's a dangerous place to be in. And that's why the whole construct of women's lib, the whole construct of sexuality as an identity rather than a function, you know what I'm saying, or sex as an identity rather than a function, it has taken the place of people being in a realm where they understand that their whole sole purpose is to express their own worth. When we talk about love, we're talking about a person's sense of worth. I'm going to just jump in like, if you want to say something, you're going to have to interrupt me. I'm going to just jump in, right? And I do want you to comment on it if you want to. I was asked the question internally, what's my superpower? Just a thought came to me. What's your superpower? And what I contemplated for a minute, because a lot of us don't even think in terms of having a superpower. We don't think in terms of that strong part or perspective of ourselves, or that like Superman with his ability to have X-ray vision and all these other things, and Spider-Man with the web, and all these superheroes and stuff. And so internally, I in contemplation, I was thinking about it, and it was like, well, what's your superpower? And that was like a challenging question, because that was a challenging question to me. And then all of a sudden the thought came to me, my superpower is love and thinking. And I realized that God gave me those as superpowers. And they're superpowers and not common power, because everyone don't utilize them. Everyone don't develop them, or everyone don't acknowledge them. As a matter of fact, in order to be accepted, most people deny them. In order to fit in, most people deny them. The ability to love, or the ability to think, especially strategically. It's not even just thinking, it's to be a strategist in your thinking. Most of us don't see them, those attributes or tools, as even useful, because we're so busy allowing what we feel to be our superpower. You know what I'm saying? And what we feel dictate the use of all our other abilities. What do you think about hearing that?
You said now love and thinking.
Yeah, strategically thinking. Yeah,
strategic thinking.
Yeah,
and that makes sense. So we would have to conclude that most people, because you said most people don't even see that as an asset, or and to begin with. So when people get involved with each other, male, female, since I'm permitted to go that direction. When they get involved with each other, I think everybody thinks that they have a power or
You think so?
I think well, women have the power of sex. They control sex. Women control the sex. This is what I've
Interesting.
learned. Interestingly enough, women control the sex. Men control marriage.
You think so?
That's what I believe. Because men are the ones who are more reluctant to say I do. I think women desire to be married more so than men do. I think women will get married quicker than men will. But when it comes to sex, women control the sex because if men want it, they have to solicit it from the woman. And so I think in that sense, it's common that most people's powers and women know the power. But I mean, the world knows the power of sex. You know what I mean? But women know the power of, and I say it all the time. I'm gonna go ahead and be bold and say it on this. I've said this many times. I've learned that women have coochie power.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I've said that a lot of times. Men go to war over, you know, not just the sex, but women, but mostly that. And then men, basically, when it comes to getting married, it's pretty much well known that in the media that men are the more reluctant.
I'm wondering, like listening to you, I'm wondering what a female would think for you to generalize what they consider their super attribute.
Well, they've generalized it themselves. If you listen to all of the songs, Beyonce and all of these women, girls, pop run the world, and they know I think they know, and even if they won't admit it, they know this is public knowledge. I mean, this is in the media. This is what young girls are being taught through songs and through movies and the whole nine. Is that women really basically they have that power. They used to call it a long time ago, even when I was a kid, the power of the P. You know what I'm saying? I've heard this all my life, so I don't think it's a secret. I think that men, for whatever reason, have they succumb to it a lot. Not that it's not a good thing, but out of the context of marriage, we can see how destructive it can be.
I'm because I'm thinking, okay, now if I'm going to go down the road that you just paved, then what I'm going to extract from that is that my identity then is connected to that. Now you have to remember, way back,
Connected to what?
is connected to. In other words, I have vagina logic. You get what I'm saying?
Vagina logic. I
Right,
like that one.
right.
That's new.
When I say that,
It's
I'm
coined here first, ladies and gentlemen. Vagina logic.
yeah, but I'm saying that from the female's perspective, that all her ideal of her value is in her vagina, because that's all that you as a male shows interest in. And I'm using what I'm saying intentional. It's intentional. If all you show me is interest in this one area, then I'm going to develop reasoning from that perspective. And it's going to be where I see that you perceive that all I'm worth is in that one area. You get what I'm saying? And so again, because you have to remember now, if I'm going to interpret love or my own identity, it's going to come out of my culture. It's going to come out of my biology. It's going to come out of my social construct, everything that's around me socially, how things are dictated from my community. So I'm extracting identity from that. So now the whole concept of love is coming out of that. So no wonder, in order for me to have a sense of belonging or an ability to attract, it's going to just come from that alone, especially when I no longer can or I've never had a healthy relationship with my mother, who's used her knowledge of the vagina, her vagina knowledge, to attract whoever it is she's attracted. So now it becomes a cultural perspective of what love is and what value is and what and excuse me, and that's something actually deeper than the act of sex itself. Because all I am is in my vagina, and all I'm worth is from the perspective of my vagina. Look at how it cancels out every other element of who the person is. You know what I'm saying? And so all this relationship is about is what my vagina thinks.
But obviously we're not suggesting that all women strictly think that way. But I like what you said. Is when a woman reasons that this is what the man, his main focus is, and his main attraction is, however shallow that is, then some are smart enough to use that to their advantage to get whatever it is that they want. It is a natural thing, right, for a man to be attracted to a woman. But when we're reduced to simply our five senses, if I'm getting this, and our emotions, and we never elevate to a state of where we can first see ourselves in worth, and therefore see, speaking of men, see women with that same lens of worth, then we continually produce the product of worthlessness, a mentality, right?
Worth and purpose are synonymous with each other.
Okay.
And so what you don't give attention to then does not compute in my mind as worth anything. If we don't have conversation on no other level for any amount of time about any other thing, or everything has to be attached to your vagina, and I have power over the relationship. You know what I mean? Well, you use the phrase marriage, but marriage by definition is not just going to the courthouse or standing in front of a preacher, pastor, priest, and quoting vows.
Right.
Marriage by definition, that's the ceremony. But marriage by definition is union. And if anything is going to unionize itself and supersede the ceremony, then it has to be in psychology. And this is why it goes back to what love is. Love is a psychology that must and can and or demands development. It's not designed to stay in one perspective or one ideal of itself. It must grow into all other elements and aspects of who and what a person think of themselves. You get what I'm saying? And so when you say what you're saying, or when you make the statements you're making, it's important for male or female to understand what they really after. So why am I really with you, or why am I really putting up with you, or why do I keep picking the same kind of a person? And the root answer to the question is in your own identity, your own idea. And it's bigger than just not wanting to be by yourself. It's rooted in.
But that is one of the main reasons. One of the main reasons.
It's superficial.
Of course it is, but I'm saying
that's
still one of the reasons people hook up and get together. And 9 times out of 10, I would say, I'm going to call it lack of self-control. 9 times out of 10, prematurely, before they even know each other, to even know, you know what I mean? Like if they want to spend the rest of their lives with this person in a covenanted, committed union, they already engaged in the act of sex. And then out of that, sometimes, most times, it's created a bond at the very least that is hard to separate because somebody.
Let's identify the bond.
Yeah, let's do that because
right.
Somebody is gonna get hurt.
Right. So
especially if it's a person that's of low self-esteem or low worth, right?
Right. So, or misappropriated worth.
Okay,
somebody
like
who doesn't understand where to apply self-value. And so let's identify where the bond is. The bond then is in no other facet or on no other level in principle other than the emotion. Because you have to understand the act of sex is an act of stimulation. Mm-hmm. And so the stimulation is what I'm after more than anything else. And so I've seen it. People even who's married don't get along in no other element, no other arena in their life other than in the bedroom. But when it comes to sowing finances in the right direction or raising children with certain morals or values or ethics or owning a business or serving other people, because I don't want to exclude church people. Because
we can't.
Right, but I want to emphasize that we're, just they say they got Jesus and their marriage is jacked up. And their marriage is jacked up because their relationship is jacked up. Their relationship is jacked up because communication is jacked up. Communication is jacked up is because somebody's idea of themselves is different than the one that is trying to make them be what they think they should be.
And that's a result of the culture that you were raised in, right?
That's the result of the culture. That's a result of the fears. That's a result of doubts. That's a result of insecurity. It's a result of a whole gumbo situation, because there are a lot of factors in that. And then the crazy part about it, when you talk about culture or social construct, the crazy part about it is we all sit in church. And everybody acts like everything is okay.
When everybody in there need therapy.
Everybody in there need transformation. You know what I mean? That transformation, you know what I mean, needs to be, it's because that's a continual process.
And this is supposed to be a place where you go to be transformed.
Well, this is supposed to be a place where you go to be encouraged to transform. Because you have to understand, God is not going to do too much outside of your will and your permission.
True that.
You know what I mean? And so you have to allow, but if I'm dealing with this woman and she's still the way she is, and God, you want me to change, and you talking about what I need to do.
What about her?
Exactly. So it's about my willingness to do it irregardless to, you know what I mean, the way she is.
And that is severely lacking in people, because now, what compounds the whole thing, the craziness of it is that we live in a society where it's like, okay, well, I'll just go get another one.
Preachers,
you know what I mean? Yeah, deacons, everybody, even in the church, have adopted that mentality. Well, if this don't work, I just go get another one, or I'll start all over again. You know what I mean? I even heard a conversation on Clubhouse where these were like church people, and there was a couple of pastors online, and I was like, man, I wish Pastor Allen could be on here, because I heard this lady kind of give her testimony as the reason why her and her husband were split up. And then she said it was because he was not interested in learning how to please her physically. And no matter what she tried, she couldn't persuade him to take that more seriously. And so she said she had to let him go. Right, this is a church. This is your church.
So wait, so now we're done.
Wait, let me finish now, because this gets more interesting, right? So she's saying this, and there are pastors online, and these are church people on Clubhouse, right? And so she said, and I was shocked that there was no interjection from any of the pastors. They didn't really say anything. And when I get married again, if he's not interested in pleasing me and making and letting me teach him, show him, and learning how to please me, then I'll just get rid of him and start over again. And nobody interjected.
Wow.
And I couldn't say anything because I wasn't given permission to speak. But if I had been, I would have been like, wait a minute, hold up, are y'all, what Bible y'all reading? You know what I mean? Like, what church? I mean, because these pastors didn't say anything, and I thought that was like crazy.
And so this is the whole thing. So that's why I'm saying what I'm saying. And if you could have sat and talked with that lady, or just like you said, chimed in, and you would have asked her, if you would have asked her a question, were you in love with him when you married him? I'm just about can guarantee she would have said, yeah. Yeah. In the beginning, I loved him. In the beginning, well, what happened? From the beginning of loving somebody and then ending up not loving that person.
Was it really love?
That's why I'm asking the question. That's exactly why I'm asking the question. What
love got to do with it?
Love has everything to do with everything that we talking about.
We have to get to the description then of
right again.
Okay.
All right. Which means that
no, I didn't mean to go there, but finish your train.
So watch this. So now I want to know, why is love relevant? Because not the kind of love that we talking about with the five senses. Oh, you make me feel, and oh, I have such great attraction. Not that kind of love, philia, but the kind of love which is agape, which I think that God have set as a standard and as a goal to attain, because none of us I don't believe necessarily are just whatever, just there.
For the sake of the listeners that don't know, you said agape love,
which is unconditional, which is
it unconditional?
Yeah, it is, but it's selfish at the same time. I mean, that's how
I was about to go there.
Right,
you said
right, because that's how it can be unconditional, because it will cease to be what it is if it's not unconditional.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And so it has to have that selfish attribute or element to it. If it's unconditional, if it's not unconditional, then it's not love. It's not agape love. It's a brand from it. It's something, an offshoot from it, but it's not what we're talking about. And it is the aspiration within relationship, period. So what's the meaning behind love? Why are we emphasizing love the way that we are? And you have to understand, we're emphasizing love the way that we are right now is because it's within the construct or the context of expression. We express meaning, and everybody wants meaning. Everybody wants meaning. We want to know that we mean something. We want to know that we're not a waste. We want to know that we're not irrelevant. We all want to not be irrelevant. And so in order to understand love from the perspective of meaning, it's important. You was going to say something about it? Okay. We all want to have meaning. Ultimately, in a generic generalization, meaning is reason. We all want to know reason. We all want to know why. Like,
why what?
Why we here? Why are we? Why, what's the relevance of us? Why? And I think that most of us go into relationship trying to get a sense of meaning. You know what I'm saying? We actually substitute that for a whole lot of other things. And the worst thing that we could do is to substitute it for a feeling, because they don't last. You might as well be on crack in a lot of ways, because if you're depending to feel love or feel that sensation that comes with a feeling when you are loved, then it's going to dissipate.
But
And
that's putting the cart before the horse, though, right?
it is. It is.
Because you, okay, a woman and a man both coming into a relationship. She's looking for meaning from him. He's looking for meaning from her. And neither one of them have meaning.
Exactly. You got it. You getting it. You getting exactly what I'm saying. And that's why your worth, your sense of purpose, everything should. That's what you're unionizing.
Because y'all go back to the previous talk that we had when you made a statement. You said we were made to love.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? And even in statement you made even in a earlier segment, you said that we are to give love. That's that agape love. To we are to be the lover. Is what you said. I'm here to be the lover.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And not really. It doesn't hinge on what you give back to me. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, that's so hard.
See, that's almost impossible.
No, it's not impossible.
Well, I said almost.
Yeah, but they only heard impossible.
But I'm saying in this culture though, if you can't give what you don't have.
That's the
can't
point.
Get what you can't give what you are not. So where does it come from?
Right. And no matter what we say, you go right, which is relevant. I'm glad you do that. Actually, it comes from understanding from your culture, from your social construct. Exactly. Right. It comes from that, and then it comes from God.
Once again,
what I mean?
Okay, so
you get what I'm saying? Ultimately, it comes from God. But to say that is too easy. You know what I mean? I want it to be relatable. I want it to be where you understand that your parent, your mother or your father were supposed to go into your making from the perspective of having a purpose for you. You know what I'm saying? And you were supposed to tie yourself and baptize yourself into the purpose of your parents and of your culture and of your.
And they were supposed to derive that from God.
From their parents,
and from the beginning, from the very, they were supposed to pass down.
Exactly,
that's what families are for.
You know what I mean? Ultimately, that's where family. Well, actually, that's where families are cultivated. You get what I'm saying? They're regardless to what they look like. But the cultivation of what family is, and an example of that is what we are supposed to be mirroring and seeing in our lives all around us. And so again, now here we go. We're in a place where we're making. You know what I'm saying? Now we're making. So now, dude, let's say you, hypothetically speaking, you end up with somebody who have no concept that they came in this to unionize. Remember I talked to you about that connection in that crossroads, that place where two things come together. When you come together in a marriage, not the ceremony,
right?
Especially young ladies, but when you come,
union.
the two shall become one, and then it goes on to say one flesh. The two shall become one flesh. And you have to understand that while you're in separate vessels or containers, the mind unionizes. And this is what I'm talking. This is what I'm trying to teach, is that love is psychological more than it is anything else. It's not physical. Expression is physical, but love is psychological. And when he talks about the union of two people, he's talking about a psychological agreement, a covenant, so that function won't be schizophrenic. Function won't be off track when we are working together to be of one mind, so that then we can express one accord. Everything outside of everything that I'm saying ultimately produces value. And this is what God is saying. Like, so when you have a child, Rick, you were supposed that child was supposed to be representation of value, and that because the child,
and that's in my mind, my understanding of it, that's what he meant by the two become one flesh, because those two come together, and out of everything that they are, they create another
That's the union.
flesh.
That's the union.
Yeah.
That's an expression or a manifestation of union, not just in flesh, but in ideal.
Right.
Because now we're going to put into that which we made together in oneness.
Right.
We're going to put the ideology of our separation.
That has to be deposited.
Exactly. It's going to come together in that one flesh. It's the whole concept of God. And I hope they don't mind me talking this way, but it's the whole concept of God when he said, we're going to make man in our image and in our likeness, and then we're going to breathe into him. And that man was going to become aware of himself as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. You know what I'm saying? He's going to embody an ideal. And that's the whole concept of us as children of God. We're to body the idea. But again, that has to come out of worth. How do I develop worth? I'm glad you asked. How do I develop worth? I put you to work. I cause you to use your mind. So whatever you call a thing, it becomes. And because it came out of your ideology. See, this marriage, this relationship, this friendship, this business, everything that you now produce comes out of your own idea, which gives it value. So now what we've done is made value. In everything that we've done or everything that we do, we make value. We give it a sense of worth because we've given it a sense of meaning, and the meaning came out of the psychological elements of everything that we are, or the cause for everything that is produced. And so what you have to understand, so now you walk around here knowing that, be careful about every conversation you have with especially the opposite sex. If you know that female's logic through social construct, whatever the case, is in her vagina, if she feels that her
this is not just directed towards me, young men. This is directed towards all of you young men out there.
But I'm talking about Rick. I'm talking about Rick too. So,
I receive it. I got you.
You know what I'm saying? Now, of course she's gonna approach you from her vagina. Of course she's gonna,
but not necessarily though. Right?
Of course. I found this to be true even in church.
And I'm being the advocate right now because I'm telling you, I can attest to the fact that, especially since I eliminated the whole sex thing from my relationship process, and and the whole nine, I've seen it where it's like you just took my kryptonite away. Now they're scrambling for something else emotionally, or even something that is against you. You know what I mean?
It
that
don't
they
matter.
Use
Blackmail.
against you. It's crazy, man.
You gotta understand, and that's what I'm trying to say.
That
so
is crazy,
you force a more meaningful relationship. If there's any chance for it to be anything other than about your vagina logic, then this is going to be the space in which that's going to take place.
And I got to say this, I would have thought, because I always thought that this is what women really wanted. They wanted that guy that they knew wasn't after them just for their sex. But man, was I wrong, man?
You got to understand, dude. And that's what I'm trying to say. So now, what do I do? Who am I? Like, what else is he going to be attracted to me for? You know what I'm saying? If I can't offer him
that thing that's been the most value, has been gold to everybody else.
Exactly. So what am I? And so now let's break it down, because now we let's not box it.
Yeah.
Because now we have the GBQL 355. You know what I mean?
You done put numbers. Yo, man, they got the alphabet, man. Don't give them
but
numbers.
I'm saying, so now we have to break it down, because now, if from a female and male perspective, we're talking about the logic of that. Then we have to understand the logic from, and I'm gonna be a little raunchy, I guess, in my statement. Now you got to understand the butthole logic.
Ah,
You get what I'm saying?
man.
Or the oral sex logic.
Yeah.
Everything. So, and that can be now put under the umbrella of ceremony. And I'm messing up some stuff by saying this now rather than in our church setting. But what I found to be true is that most people don't understand sex as an act of initiation.
Ritual.
Yeah, it's a ritual, but it is an initiation.
Initiation.
You get what I'm saying? And the reason that I'm using
All
initiation
sex, period.
over, uh, yes,
that.
but I'm gonna say it generally. You know what I mean? In a generalized way. But it's an initiation. It's an initiation to my culture, my ideals, my values, my virtue. It's an initiation into everything that I want to trap you in, everything I want to free you from, anything I want to do as far as being valuable to you. It's an initiation. So to initiate, right, it's the introduction. It's the beginning. You know what I mean? And so that's why, yeah, we went out to dinner, we had fun. You know what you want to do? Let's go. You want to come over, get a drink, or you want to come over, watch some TV, and then eventually it leads to physical touch or physical contact, which is the initiation into relationship. It's the initiation into entrapment. It's the initiation with you belonging to me. Whatever ideals I'm carrying in my
into
being,
misery.
it's the exact into misery. You know, it's what happens within all lodges.
Or happiness.
Yeah, it's a lodge thing. You don't just join this lodge. You have to be initiated, which means then you go through a ritual or you go through a routine or a beginning phase of something. So to initiate is to come from that. And most people, especially men, don't understand that when that woman opens her legs and let you in, it's initiation. It's initiation. And when that man ejaculates into that woman's vagina, it's initiation. And whatever else comes, it is literally designed for relationship forming.
It's an open door.
Exactly.
It's like, here, I'm opening the door
to
whatever is coming in.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. So man, this is what I'm trying to, this is what I'm saying. So what we have to do, and it's an uphill battle, to be honest with you, that job to create new value, and I mean to make value, it's a serious task. And that's why if you don't, in principle, come from love, period, which is, again, we have to emphasize this with which is a worth concept, not self-worth even, but a worth concept. It's the whole ideal of worth, period. Then we have nothing to build anything else on, because eventually envy going to show up, jealousy your insecurities are going to show up, because why you want me were for the lacks in your life.
Now we have to go to this, because according to the Christian religion, Bible, God has proclaimed that he is love, and he is a spirit. And without him, you do not have love. That is scriptural. It said without God, he who says he loves and doesn't know God is a liar.
Okay.
So if love is a spirit, right? And you said love is a psychology, right? So you got to make that connection.
Okay.
Because there are different. You mentioned two of the different forms of love, which is philia, which is the
friendship, mutual exchange,
right, and then
agape,
right, and then agape, which is unconditional,
and eros,
which is the sexual, sensual,
and
love.
Primarily that's what we've been talking about for the most part, because that's the predominating.
This eros,
eros.
That's where the word erotic comes from.
Yeah, erotica, all that. Yeah, so that's the predominating one, because it's in the five senses that we seek to develop these things. I'm gonna go back to worth from the point of view of where's your sense of worth coming from? Because your ideal, according to what you just quoted or paraphrased in scripture, your ideal of what love is has to be correct. And if you have not loved, because it makes me ask the question, then what kind of love was God
What
talking
kind of
about?
love was he talking
Yeah, you know what I mean? I love everybody. You know, I love the guy down the street. I ain't
I
never met
love
him.
pizza.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. You know what I mean? But the kind of love that he was talking about definitely is sacrificial.
Sacrificial. That word popped in my head
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, it's definitely
And
sacrificial.
that's like taboo word.
Right.
That word in this
Rick,
culture is
let's do this real quick. You could keep going, because a lot of times most of us think that because we give of ourselves or give something, that we're showing sacrificial love, and that's not necessarily, you know what I mean? Oh yeah, he did this to me and I stayed with him, and she did this to me and I stayed with him. That's not what we mean by that. You know what I'm saying? That's not what we mean by that at all. So and we have to understand that the God kind of love is on some other kind of, it's on a different level than that in and of itself. So so one of the things, again, I want to go back to making a meaning. That making a meaning, it's important, because if we're going to have a purpose behind the union, boy, that's a lot of trust. That's a whole lot of trust.
Well, you were getting ready to, because you said that's something that's, when you was talking about where do you get,
yeah. Again, you get it from the ideal. Again, and I use the word on purpose and intentionally, the ideal of God. And even when we use the word God, by design, God is not the name of God.
Right. That's not his name.
It's just something we can say that is gives a person an idea of what we mean when we use the word God. But anyway, you didn't ask for all that. But so the ideal of love comes from the ideal of God. So whatever your ideal of God is, you can extract the ideal of love. And most people fail at the whole ideal of God, you know what I mean, or the concept of God. They're not evolving when it comes to.
Would you say that is because, and I look back to the time when I didn't know what I know, it's because we are devoid of, we don't know who God is per se. You know, we hear about God and all different types of definitions of, who God is. But I know for me personally, until I had an encounter, and it still took me a long time to see him, and I'm still, to be transparent, being transformed to see him in the proper perspective of who he is, because he claims himself to be Father. And that's a foreign concept. That was a foreign concept to me, leaving the house at an early age and not having like I said, my dad left at when I was a kid. But would you say that it is because we don't have a proper understanding of God or who he is, or we don't know him? Because how can you, I mean, people speak that word or his name, they think is his name, off their lips all day long, and everybody claims to have a relationship with him, but it's not demonstrated in their lives or their actions. The at least the agape sacrificial love piece is not. And I have to say honestly that I'm guilty of that as well. You know what I mean? Not having known how to be sacrificial
And you
not
know what
think of
though, Rick?
myself.
I challenge that though, and I hear you, and I understand it. But most of us, I mean, if we've encountered God, God has no problem with introducing Himself to us.
Mm-hmm.
It's whether or not we're willing to give up what it takes to embrace the understanding and to accept the understanding. Because oftentimes when God introduces himself to you, it's going to interrupt a lot of things we got going on in our lives and a lot of things that feel good to us. It's going to interrupt our lives. To really know God is an interruption. And to really love somebody is to interrupt.
But why is it an interruption?
It's an interruption.
Because he has standards
exactly
and laws that we don't want to abide by.
And it's our choice to.
And that's our choice.
You know what I mean? And so it's easy to.
But we won't readily admit that.
No.
That is our choice.
And I'm not trying to resist God. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to resist God. God knows
if you ask,
I'm human.
Right. If you ask everybody, they claim to have a healthy relationship. Most of us claim to have a healthy relationship.
You know why?
And we go back to the church.
Leave me alone and I leave him alone.
So, that's a healthy relationship. Yeah. And we carry that. And then we want to marry somebody and with that same mentality and concept. Exactly. You know what I mean? I only want you for what I want you for. And we got 4 seconds left. That hour went by fast, man. We're going to have to do a little bit more. Can you stay for a little while longer? We're going to continue this just a little while longer. And I told you guys, this subject matter can go as deep as you want it to go. And we have to talk about, now that we're here, the resistance. Let's call it that. Our resistance to
you can exclude the God thing.
Yeah. Let's
and then you could just say resistant love. Because man, let's say if you walked into a relationship but you having a problem with a female or your wife, your spouse, whoever, and it seems like nothing you doing is making a difference. So she just has this wall up, or that she's not affectionate, or that she rejects all kind gesture and don't want to be bothered. You know what I'm saying? And so you could resist or reject being loved. And most people will do that in one shape, form, or fashion.
But that would seem like insanity, because who in their right mind would reject something that is supposedly so good? Everybody wants.
A lot of people.
And all of us do.
A lot of people. You know why? Because we're not using, and we're going to use a word that's going to put it right in place. Because to receive love makes you vulnerable. And a lot of times we have an issue with vulnerability. It's easier to give you my vagina or my penis than it is to let you love me, or to receive or respond to you loving me, because those are just organs in my body or part of my body, but it ain't in my mind. You know what I'm saying? My mind is the thing that if I let you love me, if I receive love from you, that means I'm letting you get in my mind, which means I'm letting you influence me in ways that makes me feel out of control. And because of what I've been through before, because of what, it scares me.
But sex, outside of it being taken, is supposed to be the expression. I mean, it's supposed to be the expression of that love. So we enter into the act of sex, right? Not even having the love that we're supposed to be expressing.
But I take issue with it because in this hour, maybe when we was growing up, that might have been the case. Sex is sex. Love making is different. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You can make love without ever touching a penis to the vagina. And we just have sex because we've made love. You know what I mean? All day long. We've been making love all day, man.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yo, dude, you must be cool, man. I know. No, see, your mind thinking I'm talking about my penis in her vagina. I'm talking about the way we laugh together and the way we talk and her little nuances in her voice and the way she curl her eyes when I do something silly. We've been flirting back and forth all day, dude. Like, we've been making love. You know what I'm saying? And we only consummated that love when we got in the bed and, with that penis, because we're making value. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? All that we did during the day was leading up to something making meaning in the bed. And a lot of times, and that's what people are missing. They're going right for sex. Mm-hmm. That's different right there.
Okay, so that happens too. Outside of people knowing God, people supposedly express the love they have for each other all day long.
But it's not from.
It's that's that affection, exactly, and that five.
Exactly. It's not from a dimension that I'm talking. I'm talking in a dimension, and you can simulate it, because I'm not even going to sit here in front. Because if somebody was calling her, oh, me and my man, we make love all the time. See, that's simulation. Mm-hmm. It's because if it's outside of wedlock, if it's outside of commitment and obligation and communicable witnessing and all those things that make it through society legal. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That legal element to it, then it's simulated. And you'll find that the enemy can simulate just about anything, especially if it's performance oriented, that God has done. As a matter of fact, that's what he does.
And that can evoke immense feeling and emotion, right? And then so people can, I don't want to say people, but we misinterpret that.
We legitimizes it.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous when you legitimizing something that is not legitimate. You're trying to legitimize something. That's what I'm saying. You gotta be careful. Two men getting married is not legitimate. It's not legitimate marriage.
Right.
They had a ceremony, and because of how they feel in the whole nine. And this is controversial. I shouldn't even.
Of course, it's controversial, but it's relevant, because otherwise people are confused if we don't talk about all that is involved in this.
Yeah, but then you end up getting kicked off.
Well, I'm already. It is what it is. You know, it's and that's why I'm doing this, is because I'm gonna tell you. I remember my initial reason for even doing this show was when I was just hearing all of this stuff and seeing all this stuff on social media. And I think social media is a confusing place. There was a time when you really had to be in front of somebody to express yourself, and you could see the expression on their face, and you knew, the context in which what they were saying. But on social media, it's different. So I expect that this is where it's going. It's going to have to go, because now everything is divided. Everybody has their own sect or whatever that they want to protect or derive their identity from.
Right,
you know what I mean?
And I want to say that this is not about hate.
Nah,
this is about
absolutely
a conversation. This period.
Because we're talking about love.
Yeah.
And everybody wants love, but even those of us, like we said in the church, we people. At the end of the day, we're people, and we all need love. Mm-hmm. We all need that agape love, that sacrificial love. All of us, I don't care who you are, you want that and you need that. You know what I mean? So we need to identify what it is that we're missing. Even people in the church are missing this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Who claim to know God.
Yeah, that blows me away.
You know what I mean? The ones who claim to know God and then come to supposedly God's defense when it comes to attacking, the homosexual and that. But we gonna be real. We gonna get down to putting the magnifying glass on anything, on everybody. God hates fornicators just as well. You know what I mean? Fornication, not fornicators. He hates fornication as well, and adultery as well. All of it's going to keep you out of his good graces. You know what I'm saying? Period. Lying. People lie every day. It's almost natural to lie. So this is not a finger pointing.
Right. And it's important to emphasize that. But, at one point, they were saying, let's open up dialogue relative to the things that are going on. But I have a problem with it when you don't allow me to have my perspective and so that's censorship.
Right. And that's encroaching your...
Yeah, and then you want to call it a hate speech or hate crime.
Yeah, that's when it's jacked up.
When ultimately I'm talking about love, like you said, I'm talking about love, I'm talking about relationships. I'm talking about that if any relationship is going to be sustained, it's not going to make it if it's not if it's emotion first, if it's how you feel first, because we're not talking about adolescents and we're talking about mature people who are able to approach these things with already having had experiences, but then there's nobody having a conversation about it, because I'm telling you that celibacy or abstinence causes you to think clearer, and you don't understand how your mind is foggy when you start the act of sex in and of itself. It clouds your mind and your judgment and your reasoning. Being in a relationship outside of like we used to use the phrase shacking up with a female or a male outside of marriage, those things fog your mind, and so much of your productivity is taken away because your focus is on that. And not with a person who is going in the same direction or striving for the same things and purposes that you are. Again, we can simulate it. We can mirror it and look like everything, because that would be the argument. Well, how you going to tell me and my so-and-so have a good relationship, and blah, 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 blah. But I was talking to my son one day, and he was talking about something about how he feel. And I was saying, son, the problem with you guys in your generation is that you never consider right or wrong. Right. You just consider how you feel. Right. But there's a right and a wrong, to everything that we do. Well, who are you? I can hear somebody, who are you? To determine what's right and what's wrong. I'm nobody. I'm falling in line with what's right and wrong, just like you are.
Right. But you'll think twice before you go and at gunpoint rob a bank, because you already know. This, and some things we innately know are right or wrong, but because we have opportunity to override some things and get away with some things, we want to then, like you said, legitimize them.
So let me ask you a question, Rick. So how do you navigate friendships with the opposite sex if this becomes the motive behind something or somebody else? How do you navigate?
If what becomes the motive?
That, look, I'm ready for more than you ready for, or you're not the right one for me, but I like our friendship, but I don't see anything more evolving out of that. How do you, because that's a difficult place to be in.
It is.
When somebody wants more than
the other person is willing, or even know that they're willing.
Yeah, that's a tough spot.
It is. I have to make, let me clarify the distinction. I had to learn this, the difference between celibacy and abstinence. Celibacy is taking a vow of no sex ever, period. You just, I believe, I stand corrected. Some of y'all correct me if I'm wrong. Abstinence is when you choose to not have sex until you are married. And so when I chose that route, I discovered a lot of things I didn't know, that I thought I knew as it pertains to relationships. You know what I mean? And the things that I would have never encountered or been or had this sense of enlightenment to until I took this path. And to answer the question in short, it all goes back to when I started developing a sense of my own worth. I discovered prior to me becoming abstinent, and the reason for my abstinence is because of my proximity and relationship and my respect and reverence for God. Prior to that, I thought I had a sense of worth, but I discovered that I was suppressing the fact that I knew that I didn't.
So that's cool, but now like we're gonna flip the tables and I'm gonna interview you a little bit. We're gonna have a conversation on this level.
All right.
So like how did you get it from your experience to the place where it was your choice? Like, was it your choice, or when did you discover it was your choice over then circumstances and situations making it that way?
What I discovered was I had the choice over, I had the control over allowing certain pain in my life. When I went through the pain of having somebody reject me that I really desired or something that I wanted turned from me and not want to have anything to do with me, that was a painful experience. And
wait, because I want you to continue, but I want to extract as much as possible out of it. So, like, what was the pain like? You know what I'm saying? Like, what were some of the...
There was a conglomerate of things.
Like what? Like give us some examples.
My self-esteem was almost shattered. You know what I mean? Because, again, like you mentioned earlier, sometimes we put our meaning, we allow that person to be our meaning for why we rocking. And I did that. And people wouldn't believe this because when they see me in my element as a musician on stage, they would think that, oh, this dude got it, like he got his pick of the litter, and all that. But when you want something, you know what I mean, and you put your self-worth, you start to wrap your self-worth into it because you get invested. A relationship is an investment.
Yeah.
You invest your time. That's something you can never get back, is your time and everything. So I'm one of those people that, like, I'm either all in or, I can't do the halfway thing. So I put too much of my self-esteem and my meaning and value in this person. And then when they rejected me, it was like, oh, wait, hold up. There goes my self-esteem and it's going with you. How come it's leaving with you? And God had to. At first, I didn't think that I could survive that because I put so much into it. I'm talking.
Do you remember some of your thoughts that went through your head when it came to, like, what
just
was
like
some
people
of the
say it is? You can't eat. You know what I mean? You be like, you know what I mean? You like, first of all, I had to distinguish whether or not it was really love or not, and it wasn't. It was more my ego.
I love it.
Than it was anything else. I discovered that later. Yeah. What I thought was love was more my ego being shattered.
Right.
And I couldn't handle that. I didn't know how. I never was taught or had any schooling, or my dad wasn't around to teach me how to manage my emotions. So it just went crazy and haywire. And I was like, what the heck is going on? I'm crying. And I'm talking even to the point where you feel like, wow, what am I going to do? Especially if you've invested a lot of time into someone and you don't think that you can survive without that person.
So let's interject here. value. And this is exactly why me and you are having the kind of conversations that we are having, and I like appreciate. I believe you helping so many people just by your testimony. Period. But that's why it's dangerous, because you don't even know you've put so much emphasis on your worth and your value, and giving it to somebody else. But you didn't go into the relationship. Even if you thought you did, you didn't go into the relationship with your worth, with your value. You wanted them to make that.
Let me say this, and I don't know if this is true for everybody, but for me, part of my delusion was I thought I was the bomb sexually. When you have the bomb sex, you know what I mean, and you really think that that's enough to keep a person involved, you know what I mean? Like I didn't have that problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And in my mind, that gave me a false sense of
power.
Authority. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like I'm first of all, I'm desired because of what I do by a lot of different women. So I figure this woman should be appreciative that I'm giving it to her.
Wow.
You know what I mean? These are the stupid things
I understand.
You think, you know what I mean? But when it come crashing down and reality hit and you left there with nothing, like if that's all you had, bruh, and now she don't want that no more. She getting that from somebody else. You've attached your self-worth, not all of it, but enough of it to do damage when it's taken away. This is what a lot of men won't admit. Men will cheat all day long. We'll cheat all day long. But when it's done to us, it's like
it's manhood.
Man. It's like we can't handle it. We lose it. We be jumping off buildings, shooting people and getting violent and all crazy stuff. But I've said all that to say that I falsely put a sense of I don't know what the word is, into this my sexual performance. You know what I mean? Because I didn't know that women can have sex with you and not have a heart attachment. They can detach their heart from you and still be sexually involved with you. Men can do it too. I think we're known for that, but the main culprit was being involved with someone physically, emotionally, and spending all that time and not bringing together that value and that worth for each other.
Right.
I don't know how that makes any sense.
That it makes a lot of sense. And again, I think that you've arrived or achieved your intention, which is relatability. I think that a lot of people can relate to what you just said. But my thing is that to me, what you just said validated the things that we've been talking about over this course of time. Is that that's the only problem with the physical. Mm-hmm. That's the problem with the physical, is that there's somebody who's just as good or is actually better than whatever it is you've hyped yourself up to be in all those ways. And there's a for me, I think that for females especially, there's a underlining essence and meaning to the act of sex, and that's the relationship. I said that before, that that really women love attention. And even if you were incapable sexually, physically, to perform sexually, if that relationship is tight, if you can make love to that woman's mind, You know what I'm saying? And spiritually, we would even put it in the spiritual realm. Then that woman will have no eyes for no one else but you from that perspective. And that's why it's dangerous to spit game. That's exactly what Lucifer did to Eve. You know what I mean? He was intimate with her.
Yeah.
He wasn't, he bypassed her physically.
Yeah.
And went into her mind, and she opened her mind before she opened her legs.
Well, that reminds me of, I don't mean to get this superficial, but of a scene I saw in this movie called The Devil's Advocate, right? When Al Pacino, who played the devil in that movie, when he first started seducing what's his name's wife, right? They was at a party, and he was sitting in a chair, and he simply told her, he said, your hair would look a lot better if you put it up. It accentuates your neck. And he was just talking, and then later on in another scene in the church, when she claimed that he had raped her in the whole nine, she said he sat there and talked to me for hours. You know what I mean? And so when you said making love, now that's what I learned too as well. Like, I thought I was making love by the bomb, blowing the back out, you know what I'm saying? But I wasn't, you know what I mean? Because I wasn't attending to the things that meant something to her.
Yeah.
I wasn't attentive to the things that actually meant more to her.
Exactly.
And my ego, that's why I say it was a blow to my ego. And I had to learn that I didn't know what love was. I remember I said this in one of the earlier episodes, that when I discovered what love was, I was like, whoa, I'm way off. I have no clue. And so I had to take a back seat. And, I remember my dad told me this a long time ago. You can keep banging your head up against the brick wall. Sooner or later, something is going to break. And I guarantee you, it's not going to be that brick wall. And I remember the last sexual encounter that I had, and I know I'm being transparent here, but I hope this helps somebody. The last sexual encounter I had, and I went in it, quote unquote, preaching, you know what I mean, into the relationship. That's what I'm saying. Come on, man. And I remember I let myself get physical with this person. And the moment we got up, she called me a hypocrite.
Wow.
And that just, I can't even tell you what it did to me mentally and spiritually.
So this is like your journey to making the decision.
Yeah.
Okay.
At that point, I had already made the decision to be abstinent, but I made an excuse to get prematurely sexually involved with somebody that I was literally actually interested in was trying to win. And I made that mistake because now I'm calling myself rocking with God. And so spiritually speaking, like, the devil just jumped off all over that. You hypocrite. You talking all that junk like you trying to teach somebody something. You know what I mean? Like, it was really pride. Like, you pride of yourself. Like, I ain't, and I don't have sex. And then you do that. And it almost floored me. From that point on, I was like, you know what? I got a lot more to learn. That's why I wanted to have this conversation with you.
Right. But for me, the emphasis for me is the willingness to do it, because a lot of times we it's like going to the gym. You eating this pizza, and then tomorrow you're gonna go to the gym, and when tomorrow comes, you make excuses. It's you negotiating, and one of the things about negotiating with yourself is that what you're doing is talking yourself out of something that that's right or good for you. And a lot of times I believe that there are people who are making the decision for abstinence, but when the urge come up, they make decisions or put themselves in flirtatious positions. And before you know it, they fall. Yeah. So to speak. Yeah. So
you told me something a long time ago. Rick, you gotta know yourself well enough to know what you can live with and what you can't live without. So now I set perimeter. I know me. I know in certain situations I'm going to give in. It's going to be on and crack a lack and it's going to be popping. There was a time when I thought that I was strong enough to resist certain things. You know what I mean? You come over for a little bit of, as they call it, Netflix night and Netflix and wine or something. You know what I mean? Me, Netflix, wine with a sexy woman, it's going to happen. Especially if she's as attracted to me as I am her. So I set perimeters because I know my weakness.
Right.
And I know I can't play.
Right.
I can't play. Somebody else might could play that game, but I can't play.
Right.
I don't know if I revealed more than I actually should have.
You in control.
I could, I might edit some of that out.
Yeah, but so anyway,
we got about less than a half hour.
Okay, I think that this is important. This is an important turn in the whole ideal of the relationship. Like I told you before, like we couldn't talk about this.
Yeah.
It would have been irresponsible to talk about this because that worth in your abstinence. You know what I mean? And for some strange reason, I'm getting emotional almost to the point of tears. Because it don't make sense when we're going through it and we don't see the logic behind a lot of things at that moment. Mm-hmm. But then when you become clear-headed, it starts making sense. And so now,
and it's not fun. Yeah. It's not desirable, but it's worth it.
Yeah, and that's where I wanted to go with it.
It's worth it.
Why?
Because it eliminates all of that extra stuff that I would have to go through. I don't have to slip and dip and tip. I don't have to lie. I don't have to be saying things that I don't want to say. And I don't owe anybody anything.
Right.
But
and so
love.
This is why, though, I asked the question, because now, for me, if I was in your position, it would be like going through a landmine, because any conversation, you know what I mean, the potential of this person going further than you was intending. Look, we just friends, or I just wanted to, I just wanted to, be friends on whatever level. This is not the path that I wanted to go. But yet now I done messed around and if I'm the female, I done messed around and included you because of the conversation. And this is, again, what I want to emphasize, that conversation is not innocent. It's literally an instrument and a tool that our adversary uses.
And you know what? I have to admit that I am learning that. I'm learning that now. You know what I mean? Like, again, I don't control the boundaries of someone else and how far they allow themselves to get involved. You know what I mean? Because it's a whole nother, what I realize is a whole nother attraction.
Mm-hmm. It's intimacy.
Yeah, it's intimacy, period.
And that's the thing. It's intimacy that you're tickling the air gate.
But I've discovered that, most women have encountered so many men who were of the just selfish nature. You know what I mean? They wanted to be in that good relationship and that wholesome relationship, but were treated, unfairly or wrongly or dogged, as we say, by that man who really had ulterior motives or whatever. And they didn't see that. I didn't get it before.
Right. I find that, first of all, don't approach it without understanding your own motives.
Right.
You have to understand, because if you are who you say you are, if you are love, and you understand that the whole ideal of love is sacrifice and service, right, and an expression of yourself from those perspectives, then you definitely have to understand why you're doing what you're doing, and stay focused on that why, and not be distracted from that why, because once you accomplish that why, then you can detach without any other,
without injury.
no, I ain't gonna say that. You can detach without justifiable blame.
Okay.
You know,
I like
because
that.
because sometimes we go in initially with the right intention, and then we'll get selfish along the way. And you have to understand, anytime that you become selfish because that's they meeting a need now in you, or you're getting some sense of fulfillment or gratification in the conversation, or in the laughing, or in the company. And so, yeah, we ain't having sex and blah, blah, blah. But, you know what I mean? You did just have intimacy with that person.
So now keep that thought, but now you sparking two more questions now, which we're going to have to jump into a whole nother thing. And one question is, which I get a lot, is that some people don't believe that a man and a woman can be friends without being intimately involved. And if that is possible, how is that possible? And number two, where do you draw the line between making love and actually, if you're interested in someone, trying to get to know them and develop a friendship? What would be the proper approach then?
Right.
Or the proper cutoff point? Or where would you know what I'm saying? I don't know if that's a loaded question, but that's two questions in one.
That's like a whole nother
Can we
show.
answer the first question in another show though? Or maybe both of those?
Well, you gonna write it down?
Yeah, we got about
remember?
18. Of course, I got this.
Yeah, right.
You know what? I'm gonna write it down as soon as we're done. Now we got about 18 minutes left.
Okay.
Well, we can end here if you want.
No, let's just talk about it, because I want to emphasize the fact that love is never without its purpose. Everything that love is, and everything that love does, and everything that love expresses is always from the perspective of purpose. That purpose is, and so to love is to be qualified. And so if you're going to be qualified, then that means that you're going to extract it from your culture, your identity, your upbringing. So those things qualify. And if you've been qualified from those perspectives, then meaning has been made for you. If you look back throughout history, whether it's in Africa, whether it's in Israel, Jerusalem, anywhere you want to look, Egypt even, it depends on wherever somebody's ideal of things come from. No one was ever without purpose. Purpose always meaning has always created status, station in life, the whole nine, and whatever station in life, you never was without meaning. You never was without meaning, and that meaning was the governing factors behind everything about your life and who you are and what you could achieve and what was expected of you. So, and that in and of itself was a worth. And so from that point of view, love is never without a worth. That innocent lamb, that little innocent calf that they used to put on the slaughtering block and transfer their sin to, was what had a worth, had a sense of value, had a sense of meaning. You know what I'm saying? So that's the point right there. And a lot of times we approach even a friendship, because what we're talking about, to me, can happen to males. You know what I mean? And you can confuse your affection for another male, you know what I mean, and then interpret it as something sexual. You know what I mean? It's the whole, it's like what we're talking about, break barriers of gender, breaks barriers of ethnicity, break barriers of culture. It breaks all kinds of social barriers, because we're talking about governance. And when you're dealing with from the ideal of governance, it's in your own mind that you have to deal with yourself and understand that you were not meant for that. You were not born for that. This is not your creator's intention for your life, and he expects you to be governed by meaning. You know what I'm saying? So Now, when you get into, okay, how do I navigate within the context of my male and female or my male and male friendship or relationship, the whole nine? Now, when you get into that ideology behind it, then you break it down from meaning. Everything is in meaning. Everything is meaning. Is a meaning for it. That when you as an individual don't understand or don't accept your meaning, because a lot of times, or don't even know your meaning, a lot of times I could tell you your meaning, but depending on how you feel at any one given moment, you'll reject your meaning. And so you become void, empty without meaning, which means that any other spirit can now occupy that space because you haven't filled it with ideology. You haven't filled it with psychology. You haven't filled it.
Man, you saying a lot, man. So, okay, so from the introduction point of view of a a male and female, or anybody entering into a friendship, okay, there has to be boundaries. What I think has happened is, even in male and, like you said, male and male relationships, the sexual, once the sexual boundaries are crossed, right? I think the line has been blurred in this culture from, where the sexual, because you can have an affection for a friend, you know what I mean, and not know how to, and not be emotionally mature enough to establish boundaries. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't being taught.
But I say not being emotionally enough to choose to abide in the boundary. I just don't believe that there's never a time when you don't have an option not to choose it.
Okay, so you already are in the safe zone, but you decide you choose to cross the line.
Or I choose I'm weak.
Right. Okay.
I'm choose that this is my sexual identity.
So now we get deeper into the problem, though. So the weakness, where does this strength come from?
The strength comes from.
I know where it comes from. I'm asking from.
Right. So the strength comes from wherever you draw it. Whatever you feed your mind, whatever you feed your emotions, wherever your attention, wherever you allow your emotions to take you. And a lot of times because look, I'm born this way, I'm this, I'm that, I'm whatever, and I don't have nothing against anybody. Period. I want to. I know you're not going to.
Yeah, but let's deal with that, because I'm born this way. There's an answer for that as well. Because all of us, in God's eyes, are falling short of His credentials, and the answer to that born that way is, no matter what state you were born in, we all have to be born again in order to enter into the kingdom of heaven.
I love that. But in saying that, we all have to come to the place where we understand that we are not without choice. And that's the key. I don't care what your propensity is. I don't care what your inner unctions are. I don't care what your ideology is. We all have choice. Somewhere along the line, you're choosing, or you gave in and decided to be what you are. You want to choose abstinence, then that's a choice. That's why I was asking you the questions the way I was. Because so Rick, what happened when you decided, when you intentionally came to this conclusion? Because we all make choices. We all make choices.
Right.
At the end of the day, how that happen? We all make choices at the end of the day, and then when we are held accountable, We say it was the woman you gave me, God. We said, why you let me marry him? Why you let me marry her? You know what I mean? The whole nine. But all the way down the thing, there were always all these signals, all these signs. He, I don't care how much he whined and dined you and tell, oh, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? No.
It was your decision.
Exactly.
Ultimately,
you are ultimately making the choice.
Right. So in one sense, that is an issue of maturity, but in another sense, it's an issue of pride, because what I'm finding is that what we hate most is being accountable for our own actions.
And I want to say this, we definitely don't have time. You say you're going to remember, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because what we have to include in the conversation is what is masculinity, is what is femininity.
Yes.
Because, and then what is the demeanor and the role in the psyche of of someone who's masculine versus someone who's feminine. You know what I mean? And what is the propensity to walk in those narrow ideals of what a man is and a male is versus a female?
That's a dangerous question, boy. That question can break up some relationships.
But I'm just saying.
I'm a witness to that.
I'm just saying, you know what I mean? But it's necessary. You want to talk about relationships.
Absolutely.
You want to talk about attraction. You want being attracted, having an appeal. You know what I mean? The woman feeling like she has to be the masculine one, because the male is not is feminine in their approach to being the aggression and aggressive and stuff, sexually, financially, business wise. All these things are factors.
You know what that brings me? I want to tell you what my motivation is and why I live the way I live right now by choice. Is because none of the relationships I've had in my past has turned out the way I wanted it to be, or was as fulfilling as I thought it. I dreamed it would be before getting involved, and so I have the hope of having, if I am ever afforded to have that opportunity again, to have the best chance possible of having the fulfillment of what that relationship is supposed to be like.
And so that's the cutoff point.
Yeah,
that's the things that, no, I don't mean in the show. No, but I mean like because you had asked the question, so how do you know and how do you approach, a relate? Those things dictate themselves. If my purpose in your life is to introduce you to Christ, and you've gotten introduced to Christ, then there you go. If my purpose in your life is to make you financially better,
is my purpose in your life, right?
Exactly. But if you have ulterior motives to my purpose, then I have to first of all let you know that that's not my purpose. You know what I mean? I don't see that as my purpose in this relationship. And if you can't respect that boundaries, then I have to forego the things that I was
purposed for in a relationship. Right. If you can't, I get it. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so
that's powerful.
And until you run across that which, again, you recognize as God's intent. And again, you're going to have to be willing, though. I almost start talking as if it was just me and you, but the person is going to have to be willing, though, to accept God's plan. Because if that chick don't look like you want him to look, that guy don't look like you want him to look, don't make the money you want them to make, don't have the car, don't have the house, the status, and all these things that socially looks acceptable and look like success, but God has called this person to your life for you to be the sacrifice in. You got to remember, because the objective is not them sacrificing to you. It is for you to be the sacrifice to them. And as a result, they acknowledge and can reciprocate that acceptance. Because if you can reciprocate acceptance, if you could give me acceptance back, then we good.
Right.
But it's the minute that you reject and rebuke, that's when he tells me to kick the dust off my shoes and keep it moving. because I can't commit to something that won't hold me. You know what I mean? We run out of time.
Yeah,
again,
we got about 2 minutes.
Okay.
But I wanted to say this because I had to learn that just because that person, we're not meant to be together, doesn't mean that something has to be wrong with that person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where something got to be wrong with that person because we couldn't come to an acceptance of each other. You know what I mean? And be as far as being together. Now I find that,
The way you said that.
instead of it just being a situation where we just aren't having acceptance with each other, something got to be wrong with me because, you know, we both decided, or I decided, you're not the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. That doesn't make any sense. We got 41 seconds left, and I told you this conversation was gonna go on and on and on. So I remember what I want to talk about in the next segment, and I promise you guys we're gonna open it up to questions and comments. I'm gonna figure out a way to invite everybody to maybe a Clubhouse session. We can get on Clubhouse, and really you guys can ask some questions to Pastor Allen that might be eating you up. And we got about 12 seconds to go. We can go over it as much time as we want as far as your availability is. So Pastor Allen, I'm gonna give you the last words to say, and you can talk as long as you want, basically, because you know we not really on a timetable. You know what I'm saying? So
I just wanted to say, I pray that things that have been said that have, that are encouraging, enlightening, and informative, definitely. And what the whole point of the conversation is to inform people who are in the midst of some stuff. And we're going to even be getting into some issue topics such as, being married, and the troubles and the problems that arise out of that once you do commit yourself to somebody to as an expression of love, and the person you married has a problem with accepting. And we want to talk about what that looks like, what that feels like, and how to navigate through that. So we are excited about what's to come. And we want you to, like Rick didn't say it this time, but we want you to share this on Facebook, share it on YouTube, tell somebody, hit the like button, as he would say, and then that membership button.
And make sure you subscribe.
Yeah, that's subscribing.
The Good Man Show. Yeah. Hit that like button and subscribe. Matter of fact, hit that like button as we talking, because when you do that, that means we can bring more content like this.
And make comments. Because we can even address your comments once we go back and review, and particularly Rick.
And if you would give everyone your email address, they can address you as personally as well with questions.
No doubt. That's k.4663 at yahoo.com. k.4663 yahoo.com.
And if you want shout out where we
Sunday mornings, 290 Mount Hope Avenue, Rochester, New York. Sunday service start 10:30 a.m. 290 Mount Hope Avenue.
Cool. Thank you guys for joining us, and I think that was explosive, and I can't wait till we get back to talk again, because we're going to talk to some of you guys who may be in a relationship, whether married or whatever, and are experiencing a lot of this stuff, and how we can, deal with some of these issues, and also those two questions that I brought up earlier, because some people don't believe that men and women can be friends. And then the other question that I had, I'm gonna have to listen to this tape back again to get that question again. But listen, so we're gonna talk about that on the next segment. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure you hit that like button again and subscribe. Talk to you all soon. Peace.